Hey there, and welcome to season 3 of Pause and Rewind. I'm Neil, my pronouns are he, him, and I'm the host and producer of my podcast, which is very much created for everyone. As usual, I'll be chatting to changemakers, thought leaders, and role models who all share a common goal. They're striving to make the world a more inclusive place. And, let's face it, we need it. We'll be diving into the moments, the realisations and relationships in my guest's life that led them to where and who they are now. Because everyone loves an origin story. We'll be talking tales, anecdotes, and a little of what makes our guests tick. This is an 8-episode season going out during Pride season. And Pride really is a celebration of the LGBTQ+ community, but it's first and foremost a protest. Showing up has never been more important, and what we're seeing right now is the fight is definitely not over. Each of these guests has an amazing story when it comes to doing their own thing and how they're showing up in the world. And I'm so excited to shine a spotlight on their stories. So, with that in mind, are you ready to pause and rewind? Hi there, and welcome to this episode of Pause and Rewind. This conversation is taking us up until the end of June. I cannot believe how fast this year is flying by. I am so excited to share this conversation with you because it is with someone who I think is absolutely brilliant, and that is George Lester, aka ThatGirl. George is an author and drag performer, and I first met ThatGirl back in 2023 during the Honor Oak drag storytime protests. And George and I reflect in this conversation about this being, quite a scary time, but really a time that was really quite monumental for the South East London community that came out in force against these protests by fascists and bigoted organisations, and really highlighted the strength of community. And it really escalated George's career as a drag performer. And I was super excited to hear more about that, hear about George's origin story as a drag performer, the birth of ThatGirl, but also their story generally. So I have so much admiration, respect, and appreciation for George and their talent. As an author and as a performer, I love going to see their shows, love their books, and yeah, I know that you're going to love George after this conversation too. So sit back, enjoy, and let me know what you think. Here it is. Cheers. Hey there, George. Welcome to Pause and Rewind. It is so good to see you.
Hi, lovely. How are you? It's been ages.
It has been a while. I mean, I was going to start with hello, ThatGirl, but I thought that
Who is she? Where is she today?
where
She's
is she?
behind
Well,
me.
well, I can see her behind you with all of your amazing wigs. So, yeah, thank you so much for being here. It has been a little while, and I need to get my ass to one of your shows. But for now, I'm going to start with a question that I ask all of my guests. What does the world look like for George Lester right now?
It's all just a little bit nuts at the moment, if I'm completely honest. I came back off holiday like 2 days ago and have just gone straight back into everything. So like it was straight back from holiday and was gigging the next day, and working on writing stuff over the weekend. And like this is kind of the first time that I've sort of sat down and been like, okay, so like we're back, we're doing things again. I've come to my little drag studio and there's just a lot going on in like a really, really cool way. And I think having had that time away, it sort of gives me a chance to sort of reset my brain a little bit and sort of think, okay, so where am I going in terms of my drag? What do I want to do in terms of my writing? Because it seems like whenever I go away, um, we're in Disneyland. Whenever I end up in Disneyland, I'm always wandering around those parks thinking, oh my God, I want to create everything. And so it's sort of like coming back and having to find a focus again instead of being quite so flighty.
And when you go into those creation modes, what does that look like in terms I guess in terms of both avenues, actually, drag and the writing. What does a creative burst look like for you?
I think in terms of drag, it's normally me scrolling through various Instagram pages and Pinterest and finding makeup styles and looks that I want to try and see how they would work on my face, trying a new eye shape, things like that, or designing new costumes based on various pieces of inspiration that just have kind of struck me. So that's a very sort of that's kind of a moving process in a way because I'll be doing it very much on the fly. So like over the weekend, I did two gigs. I did one on Saturday, one on Sunday. Different face for each one, faces that I've not painted before or are like variations on faces I've painted before because I thought, why not? And then when it comes to the writing, that's normally me sitting down, turning on a timer, and giving myself like 20 minutes to sort of like get things off out of my fingers and onto a page. Um, to sort of figure out a starting point and figuring out where I'm going to go next with any particular idea. And I think the thing about being away for those 10 days and not doing any work is that it sort of percolates in my brain for such a long time that while I can spend ages trying to figure out what am I going to write next and what am I going to do, being away and not being able to access a computer or write or feel like I can write anything down, it means that that's when I filter through all of the ideas and figure out where I want to be putting my focus because I've what's the thing that I'm thinking about the most? What is the thing that is on my mind that I can't shake? What needs to
Yeah.
be on the page? So that's yeah. So it sort of gets me there, I guess, in a way.
How do you make sure you capture it and bottle it before it disappears?
I'll make a little note here and there, like in the notes app on my phone or something, or I'll write something down in a journal. But normally it's just that something will just keep on coming to me. And if I can't, and I keep thinking, oh gosh, wouldn't it be cool if that did that? Oh, and if I'm doing that, then it can kind of move into this. And it's sort of when it keeps on like nudging at the back of my head, um, I think so long as I'm noting little things down so I don't lose stuff, broadly speaking, it all just stays there until I get it on the page.
Yeah.
And I think, and that's kind of, it's a really good way of like sifting through ideas. I think that's why I can get so lost sometimes in terms of like writing stuff specifically, because I'll spend so much time being like, what do I want to write next? Where do I want to be? What do I want to do? And you can just get lost in that thought process. And actually, sometimes the best thing to do is to be somewhere else and to do something else, whether that's going for a walk or disappearing to a different country for 10 days.
Lush. Well, you deserve it. You work so hard. And it really, really shines through. Your passion and love for your work shine through. And I 100% agree. A break is sometimes exactly what you need to get those creative juices flowing again. Let's talk about the book. It's been a few months, since it has been released. How are you feeling about it now that it's out there in the wild? What's the response been like? And for those listening, just give us a little brief overview of what they can expect.
Yeah, so my new book is called Don't Die Alone, Lucas Cook. It's the story of a teenage boy who uses his dead mum's formerly best-selling love guide to get the guy of his dreams, and much hijinks ensues. It's a book for young adults. It is my love letter to Nora Ephron style rom-coms that I grew up absolutely loving, still love now. And yeah, so it came out in January. Um, and it's been a completely different process to when my first book, Boy Queen, came out. But the response has been so lovely. Like people have been saying really lovely things about it, and it's kind of been a much slower burn and a longer lead time. The thing with Boy Queen was we it was happening during the pandemic, Boy Queen. So it was so like early release copies were going out, and so reviews were coming in like dribs and drabs. Whereas this time, no one's had it until release day, pretty much. So like it's sort of been a different. The reviews are coming now, it's out rather than coming beforehand. But it's been really, really lovely. People seem to really enjoy it, and um, they're finding things in it that I didn't even necessarily intentionally put there. There are people that there's things that I can see in it now that when I first wrote it, I didn't realize I was doing, which is quite exciting because it's a book that's not just about first love and queer love. It's about family connections and it's about grief. And the entire book really is the main character almost reaching through time through his mum's like old love guide to connect with someone who has been dead for the last like 6 or 7 years. So it's people have said really lovely things about it, and it sounds like I'm tooting my own horn here, but if I don't toot it, who's gonna? Like it's been so fun to have other people's responses to this book that has been a long time coming for me and has very much been like the book of my heart. Like I've really loved working on it, and every new edit, every reread has just been an absolute joy for me. And I think oftentimes, I think Boy Queen happened so quickly. Boy Queen was like a the process of Boy Queen was it got bought by the publisher in September. It published the following August. The first draft was written in 6 weeks.
Wow.
It was finished by the following April. Like it was absolutely nuts. Whereas with this one, it was a 20,000 word sample that my publisher rejected. It was then a 100,000 word book that I then edited with my agent at the time, which then went out to publishers, and then nobody took it on. And so then it was like further rewrites. And so I've been sitting with it for such a long time
Yeah.
that it's just been an entirely different process. And I've loved every second of getting to spend time with this book. And I'm listening to the audiobook at the moment, which my friend is reading. Um, so I'm like rediscovering it all over again, which is really lovely, and hearing someone else's interpretations of these characters and these things that I've written. And it's really, really exciting and kind of gorgeous.
That's amazing. I do remember having a conversation with you when I read Boy Queen because I read it while I was in holiday on Gran Canaria a couple of years ago and absolutely loved it. And I remember having a conversation with you shortly afterwards where you were like, I'm not sure if there'll be another one. You know,
Mm.
yeah, I know you were kind of like, wanted it but wasn't sure. Obviously, Boy Queen is your baby, the
Oh
first
God,
one.
yeah.
How do you feel about them both together? Like, are there lessons that you learned from writing the second one that you hadn't spotted in the first one? Was there things that you now look back on and think, I would have done that so differently?
I think so with Boy Queen, like because it was a one book contract, and I then spent like a year going back and forth with the publisher Pan Macmillan, trying to come up with what the next thing was going to be. And in the end, like they we couldn't come to a decision, and after going through so many different ideas and then turning all of them down, um, I sort of came to the decision that it was like, I can't keep doing this. I can't keep writing you 20,000 word samples and like 4 page synopses just for you to say, no, I can't keep doing that. I need to
Mhm.
finish something. So that's why I chose to write this. This was the idea that kind of stuck with me the most, and I wanted to continue working on it. And I think having that time that I didn't necessarily have with this, like, because I've not read Boy Queen in many a year, and so like I read the opening of it not too long ago, and I was like, oh yeah, this still I still back this. This is still good stuff. But I have had so much more time writing Lucas Cook that I feel like I could be so much more nuanced and choose
Mhm.
my words so much more carefully. Whereas like with Boy Queen, it all happened so fast that like even like there were things in there that I think I was changing before, like in like we were at like proofread stage, and it was like I need to take that out. That can't stay in there, and da 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 da. And I think I just learned that sometimes it's nice to take a bit more time. And
Yeah,
I think in releasing Don't Die Alone, Lucas Cook almost 5 years after Boy Queen came out, people were so excited. Like the people that loved Boy Queen were really excited that I was doing another book. And I'd spent the last like 5 years thinking, oh my God, I've not had a book out in ages. No one's going to care. And it turns out the people that cared. And that was really, really nice. Like, even if
yeah.
it didn't splash in the same way that Boy Queen did, like, um, the people that love it. And I think it's nice that I think when everything kind of fell apart with Macmillan, and then we didn't sell the book to publishers, it just didn't land with anybody. It was a lot of, we really love this, but no, which is really difficult. Because it was like, there's no reason for you not to take this, and I'm really
Mm.
confused. I was walking around a Waterstones, and I kind of thought I was like, what do I want to do? Like, what do I want? Like, am I trying to be on these tables? Am I trying to be on these shelves? What am I doing? And I was like, no, I just want to tell stories. So actually, if I just want to tell stories, let's back myself a little bit, and let's make sure that this story gets out there. So I did, and I'm not very good at backing myself. So that was a big swing on my part. But like, I'm really glad I did, because um, it's just been really nice to talk to people about this book that I love so much.
What are your hopes for it for people that do pick it up and read it? What do you want them to take away from it, particularly young people actually, and particularly young LGBTQ people right now, when it just feels that sometimes the world is a little bit relentless.
I think so much of what I've written, both in Boy Queen and in Lucas Kirk, is how important your support network is and how important it is to have people around you that support you and love you and will back you when you're not feeling quite so much that you can back yourself,
Yeah.
which is what I think a lot of queer people go through in life. We sort of find our little pockets of people who'll kind of be on our side. So I'd like them to take away that. I'd like them to take away that things aren't always going to work out how you think they're going to. Um, but they will work out in the end. I think this is such a terrible thing to take a quote from. Uh, there's a quote in Friends of all places where someone says to Rachel, "How do you know it will all work out?" And she says, "Because it has to."
Mm.
And I think that's kind of something that I keep telling when things get really bleak. Is like, well, it's going to work out because it has to. And if it's not worked out, then it means it's not finished yet or it's not over yet.
It's very philosophical, and
I
you're
know
you're so right. Love it.
from Rachel Green of all places.
I love Rachel. She was always my fave, to be honest.
She was the main
Um,
character.
she absolutely, definitely main character energy. And obviously with so much thing, it has worked out, but I know not how you planned it, and I kind of know that theatre school I mean your one human show was amazing, like
Thank you.
absolutely gorgeous, seeing that, and again an absolute hit with people, like people absolutely loved it. The love online that you got from
Mm,
the show was amazing. But you theatre school ended up doing drag, and we have that girl who is so adored wherever you go, award winning, I might add. And so that's how we connected,
mm.
back when the Honor Oak protests were going on. And for anyone not familiar, George spearheaded the Honor Oak protests, in retaliation to people protesting drag queen story time. What do you think now when you think back to those early stages of your drag career compared to where you are now? Because you are booked, booked, booked.
I think the whole like things not working out how you think they're going to is kind of the story of my life. Like because like Robin in Boy Queen, I applied for drama school when I was 18, didn't get in, did an undergrad, worked in publishing, did a master's degree, discovered drag on the master's degree, not thinking that it was going to be the thing. And like here I am, like you said, booked and busy.
Yes.
I think when I first started, it was just because I loved doing it. I classic wanted to try drag because of Drag Race. But then it was seeing like drag queens on the London scene, uh, where I was like, oh no, wait, that's what I want to do. Like,
Mm.
sure, this TV show is lovely, but this is what I want to be doing. I want to be a working drag. And I think those early stages of just wanting to have a nice time and enjoy myself and just kind of discover this part of me to suddenly being where I am now, like the Honor Oak stuff. As much as you say I spearheaded just the face, like it was spearheaded honestly by the local community. Like I ran the drag story time. It was the local community who were like who backed that 100%. Stand up to racism were a big part of it. The locals in Forest Hill were a huge part of it. Um, I was just the very, very pretty face on the cover of all of it.
You were, but I feel like you did galvanize people, and with a megaphone, with a microphone, whatever
Oh
you
my
had to
God.
hand, you really, really fought against it. And I know it was a really scary time. Me and Loz were there on a number of the protests, and actually, when you came face to face with lots of those people, there was one protest where it was a little bit quieter, and I was called all sorts to my face with police around, and the police were having to
Mm,
go at me for swearing. It was a really, really scary time. What do you feel looking back at it's 2 years ago now that
yeah.
all of this was happening, and it was happening over such a prolonged period of a year. How do you feel looking back now? Because that prolongedness of the whole thing really hit so many people in the local community in terms of safety, in terms of feelings of
Mm.
safety, in terms of fight, and in terms of really, really needing to stand up against this shit.
Looking back on it because it was 2 years ago. I remember when it was February. I remember sending a little post to like my little drag group chat and saying my loves, this was 2 years ago that this happened. Like this feels like another lifetime. And the
Mm.
thing with the like one person show that I did at the Bridge House, when I did it at the Bridge House, it was called That Girl versus the World, and it was basically chartering like my life as a drag artist and then the protests. I remember the first time we did it at the Bridge House, I was terrified every single night because it was like I was reliving it live in front of an audience one
The
year
noise,
on.
the sound effects that you had in there in
Mm,
that show, honestly, I hope you bring it back sometime. I really do for
I
anyone
would love
listening.
to.
But the sound effects that you had in that show were actually quite triggering for me and took me back to one particular moment during
Mm.
those protests. It was like being there as an audience member. So I imagine that you really, really fucking felt it.
That constant undercurrent, we had it was a constant undercurrent of people yelling like
Yes,
for the so
angry.
it was kind of like it was very quiet, but it was all for the entire first act. I think we got rid of it for the second, but for the entire when you're entering the space and for the
Yeah,
entire first act, there was this undercurrent of people yelling and swearing at the protests.
yeah,
Which was when we first did that in rehearsal, when we first played that in rehearsal, I could not get any of my lines. Like
right.
everything left my head. I just couldn't do it. But when we first did that at the Bridge House, I can remember being terrified every night because I was like reliving it every single time. And then we did it like 2 or 3 months later at the Broccoli Jack Studio Theatre, which is just down on the same road as the Honor Oak. And when I was doing it that time, I remember the director, Luke Adamson, checking in with me and asking me how I was doing. And I was like, I feel like I'm doing a play. Like
Mm.
I'd suddenly
Okay,
become so removed
you're right.
from it
Yeah,
that it was like, oh, I feel like I'm doing a play. This doesn't feel like it's my life anymore. Like there were various moments in that first run where like I would feel myself getting choked up, or I would feel myself like properly like having like an emotional moment on stage. The second time round, it was I felt so removed from it. And like looking back at it, it's like this was a whole other person's life. Like
yeah.
it shaped me so much as a person and as a performer. Um, and I mean, it shaped my career in a lot of ways. And sort of looking back at it, it's sort of like it's so much has happened since then, and so much has changed since then. Um, it's kind of wild because I look back at it and I was like, gosh, that really did happen, didn't it? That was really surreal.
Yeah. It was a crazy time. It was a crazy time, and probably with rhetorics against drag queens, trans people, LGBTQ plus people, a time that many of us will probably have to relive again in some way, shape, or other.
Oh gosh, absolutely. Like
Yeah,
it's a really, really scary time right now. And
yeah,
I think it was weird because where we are now and what's happening now, you could kind of trace a lovely little
yeah.
line back to where we were then. And then from there, you can trace a line through all of the other drag storytime protests that were happening in the US at the time and all of it. Like it's all there. It's all been right in front of us and it's all just been a long time coming. And I think that's what a lot of queer people and trans people in particular have kind of been saying with everything that's going on. It's like, we did tell you. It's
None of
been it's been coming, Diva, and now here
none
we
of this
are.
none of this is a surprise. None of this is a surprise
No,
at all. I mean, you are such a multi-talented drag queen as well as a writer. You know, you entertain the kids, you entertain adults. Like I've seen you handle difficult situations in bars and rowdy crowds. I've seen you handle gorgeous crowds, and you really create a really safe space for your audience. And I love that you put a lot of heart into your drag. It's never nasty.
thank you. That is honestly like I I think because when I go and see a drag show, and this is no disrespect to drag queens that do this at all, because it's just not how I operate. When I go and see drag shows, the last thing and this isn't about any drag queens being mean or anything. The last thing that I want to happen is for the drag queen to talk to me. Like that's like honestly,
Right.
while they're on set, because when I'm not in like my full glam, don't look at me. Do not perceive me. I do not exist. So like when I'm stood there and when I get noticed or someone says something, it's just like, oh, I can feel myself going into myself. And I don't want to do that to someone because I know how scary it can be when
Yeah.
some like 6'6" glam monster is like trying to have a conversation with you on a microphone.
But you do it. But I feel like you bring people with you really, really gently.
Uh,
I know you're not afraid to take the piss and have a laugh
oh
with the
yeah.
audience, but you do it in a way that doesn't intimidate people. But without compromising on the entertainment or the funniness of it.
I remember when I was doing not another drag competition the first time round, we did comedy week, and we each got given a different genre of comedy. And the comedy that and everyone, I think I don't know why I did this. Some kind of graciousness made me let everyone else pick first, and I just kind of picked out of like the ones that were left, which was so daft, but whatever. And I chose to do a roast. And I can remember talking to me, the drag queen, and she said the key to a roast is that you need to take the piss out of yourself first. And then that sort of makes it okay to sort of lean into other things. And so I always kind of make sure that we are laughing at me and then we're laughing together. Like that's what I want. That's kind of what I want to do. I don't want us to be laughing at this one person in the corner who's maybe come to their first drag show and now will never come again.
I cannot imagine that ever happening. I've been to so many of your shows and they're always packed with, so much joy for what you're doing, whether it's the choice of songs or the way you're engaging. Like, they are brilliant. I could talk about this all day. And you're my first drag queen on Pause and Rewind, by the way. I'm super
What can I
excited
say?
about
I'm a
this.
trailblazer. What can I say?
Absolutely. Let's dive into your origin story. George, are you ready to pause and rewind?
Oh my gosh, I am ready to pause and rewind. I
Let's
hope.
do this. Take me back. Tell me all about Little George.
Um, Little George was a creative little monster, I think. I was one of those children that puts on shows for the grown-ups. I was one of them. I used to write stories all the time, constantly. Um, I would read a lot. I would watch a lot. I would consume a lot and try and create a lot. And I was always the kind of person that was working on something, even as a child, not in like a conscious way a lot of the time, but it was like, oh, we're playing this game in the playground. So like I'm running the plot in my head and like, oh, I'm writing this story over here and we're putting on this show tonight and I've written the script for it and da 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 da. Like there was always something that I was doing in that regard. And if I wasn't doing that, I was probably watching Pokemon or Power Rangers or Dragon Ball Z, or playing Pokemon or reading a book. Like there was all like I contain multitudes. I'm either making something and making a spectacle of myself, or I wish to be left alone. There's no in between.
Look at me, don't perceive me. Yeah, yeah. What are perhaps some of your favorite anecdotes that you've heard about yourself?
Um, oh gosh, it's mostly just about me being quite precocious, especially on the writing front. Like I was submitting stories to publishers when I was like 12. Like I was so determined. I was so like, this is my path. This is what I'm doing. Um, I have some lovely rejection letters from publishers and like physical letters because I'm not young. Like from publishers and from agents that were turning down like 12, 14-year-old me who was like so like determined to have a book out. Um, yeah, I think just the constant creation and the so many shows that were just put on in front of audiences of unwilling family members.
Do they like to remind you about them?
Thankfully, no. They keep that information to themselves. I think because they know that it's like if I'm not on, I don't want to be perceived. And so I think if they brought them up, they'd just see the light go from my eyes. And I just go to a different place. I just retreat to my fortress of solitude, the astral plane, and you would never see me again.
That is so funny. How much of Little George do we see now with that same kind of almost mindset of look at me or don't perceive me?
I think I think I am the same person with bigger shoes. Like I think
Bigger
I
hair.
bigger hair. So oh my God, thank God the hair got big. Honestly, you look at early drag photos and those flat wigs, my God, horrendous. But yeah, I just think I'm very I sort of go through these phases. I'll have like these intense phases of busyness, and it's always one or the other. Like I'll have a week where I'm doing drag like 6 days in a row and there's multiple gigs in a day. And then I get to the end of that stint and I never want to see a person again.
Mm,
Like, and I will just retreat into myself and I will focus on my writing or I'll just like take a few days off with my partner or like whatever. But like, I think it's very much if I'm on and I am present and I'm
yeah.
here to do the thing, please pay attention to me. I need it to survive. If I'm not, please do not look at me.
So interesting. So interesting. I guess the rest of you comes out in your writing, right? You kind of like on the paper.
Yeah, I think there's so many parts of me that is like there is there's a world in my brain where sometimes I would like to be a writer like Suzanne Collins, who wrote The Hunger Games. She's not on social media. She does not exist in the real world as far as we know. But every couple of years she'll pop out an absolute banger of a book and a new movie, and then she'll disappear again. And
I
it's like I see that journey. I see that for me sometimes, but then I'm doing my drag and
yeah.
I'm at the Admiral Duncan on a Sunday night singing It's All Coming Back to Me Now by Celine Dion with an entire audience of people singing backup. And I'm like, oh no, I need this. I need the attention sometimes. So it's sort of
Yeah.
like I'm a I'm a walking contradiction of a person.
Oh, well, why not as well? And I've been in that audience when you've done that song, and absolute, yeah, yeah, yeah. I remember you heard me singing it over everyone. I was like getting that into it.
It was beautiful.
I
I
was
wouldn't trade it
not.
for the world.
What were you like at school? Was it the same there?
Um, I specifically remember a lot of my school reports were about me being very chatty.
Okay.
Like I remember, it was always like, is there was that meme that went round where if you were told that you were like a joy to have in class, you're now gay or queer. And like we always had joy to have in class, but won't stop talking.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Has to be told to stop talking far too often. Um, I was, I think. I think I knew what I wanted and I knew what I liked and I knew what I enjoyed. And I think in some ways that was good and in other ways that was a problem. So like at secondary school, for example, my focus was on the performing arts for the most part. So like I didn't care about the other stuff quite as much. So it meant that like my grades weren't the best in those subjects. Whereas in like drama and dance, it was like, yes, cool, she's doing fabulously. Just casually like throwing pronouns at myself right now. Um, but I remember going to parents' evening with my mum once and saying, "Oh, my drama teacher's over there," and she was like, "We're not going there first; it's too easy." And I was like, "Oh my god," which is fair. Like her name was Mrs. Horman, Sandra Horman, icon, legend. Um, and she would have sat there and sang my praises for 20 minutes. And my mum was like, "We're not having that. We're going to go see your science teacher.
Oh,
We're going to go see Mr. Edwards, see what he has to say."
what was the goal at that time? Was it acting, dancing, performing?
I think I spent a lot of time in secondary school feeling like I needed to pick a focus because they keep
Mm,
telling you to like niche down.
yeah.
And I think I always wanted to write. I've been writing my entire life. I always wanted to perform. I've been performing my
Yeah.
entire life. And so it was sort of like I kept on having to, I kept feeling torn in these two different directions. Um, in the end, I never chose. Like I kept feeling like I was getting to these points where I needed to pick one, but then every option that was available to me meant that I kept being able to do both. So like we got to choosing our options for GCSE and it was like, well, I'm going to do dance and drama because you were supposed to pick three options. And they would give you two of the three. I wrote down two because I was like, I'm not giving them a chance to put me in something I don't want to do. So I wrote down two and left the third space blank. Um, and but even then, it was like we were doing dance and drama for my options. I've still got English literature and language over here. Got to my A levels, performance studies, dance, media studies, English. Like, and got to my undergrad, drama with creative writing. Everyone kept telling me to choose, and I just didn't do it. And now here I am, still having not chosen at the age of
Yeah.
33, and I still don't feel like I have to pick one. I just
No.
bounce between them as and when I feel like it. You can do it all. You'll just be tired.
Yeah, no, absolutely agree. And as someone that likes to do a lot of different things as well, I really felt that pressure, and I don't think I don't think I've ever landed on one thing. I like, and I'm in a phase at the moment actually where I'm kind of still deciding what I want to do. I've been in events for 20 years, but I'm kind of at the mindset of I love my public speaking, I love my hosting, I love the content side of things. I'm like, if I throw enough shit at the wall, something will stick, but more than one thing might. and it's fine.
Exactly. And I think that's what's so beautiful about it. I think I I don't know. There's times when I think, okay, so what is when my grown-up brain switches on and it's like, okay, so what is the end game here? Like what are we doing
Mm,
when we're like 50? Like how where are we moving from here? And it's like, I don't know. For all I know, tomorrow I could wake up and decide that I want to go back into working in publishing and I'll go and do that. Or I'll have a completely different career path that I don't know what I'm going to be doing in 15 years time. Who knows what it's going to be? It could be anything because I
yeah,
think what I've learned is to expect the unexpected because nothing that I thought was going to happen has happened. And if it has happened, it's not happened the way that I thought it was going to. I wanted to be an actor. I wanted to be a performer. Drag didn't come about for me until 6 years ago. Um, I wanted to be a writer. I wanted to have a book out. I was approached to write Boy Queen. Like this was not going to be my first. This was my sixth book that I had written with my agent. Like I had five books before then that went nowhere. Like I think staying open to the world and the universe and what is out there, and paying attention to
yes,
things that come your way. You just never know where you're going to end up. And I think that's beautiful and terrifying. It's only
yeah.
terrifying if you look at the bank balance for too long.
Indeed, but I think if you can lean into it and keep your heart and your mind open, things
Mm,
do happen. I think when we're too one track with things, we can miss out on so many other opportunities and joy and wonder.
totally. I mean, even the drag story time stuff, like I didn't set up that drag story time. That drag story time was set up by my drag sister Copper Top. She did one session and then I think then she was going and getting her hair transplant, which I do mention in the show. Maybe I shouldn't
I
mention that on the
remember.
podcast. Then she was away. And I covered one. And then I covered the next one because then she was announced for Drag Race and she was like, I'm not gonna have time to do this. Can you take it over? So I took it over. So that was never meant to be part
Yeah,
of the plan. But there it was. And then suddenly the protest happened, and I was like, well, here we are. Let's make some lemonade.
yeah,
Um, and the
and you
thing
really
is,
did.
oh God, I really did. And like my favorite analogy for that, and uh, this is possibly quite big-headed of me, is that they're Kanye West and I'm Taylor Swift. Like they tried to ruin me, but they just made me really famous. Not famous, that's the wrong way of putting it, but they made me really booked. They made me
Yeah,
really booked in
yeah.
2023. My God.
100%. I mean, just remember seeing you just everywhere, like, and still, it's amazing. Let's dial it back a bit. Seeing got quite a picture of you as a creative little monster, as you said, and I'm not sure that's too far from where you are now either. But
Yeah.
what was teenage you like? What was it like?
Uh,
Because quite a formative time, quite a challenging time for some of us in terms of sexuality,
mm.
hormones, all that shit. What did it look like for you?
I think it was trying to figure out where I fit into the world
Mm,
because I think I spent a lot of time denying any sort of queerness, despite being incredibly camp. And it kind of being very, oh, I hate this, it's so like obvious to everybody else, even if it's not obvious to yourself.
yeah,
But sort of trying to figure out where I fit because I knew that I wasn't, I knew that I was different. I knew that I wanted to move into a performancey direction and I knew that I wanted to write and I knew there were things that I knew, but there was so much that was kind of unknown. And I think when you are a teenager looking at the world, you can kind of think, well, I need to play it straight for as long as possible because if they know who I am, then it's not going to work out. I can remember I remember never coming out to everybody while I was at school. There was a group of friends that knew, and that was it. And I think I kind of let people assume, but I never
mm,
said anything. I think there were a handful of people that knew. And then even when I went to National Youth Theatre, I didn't tell anyone. I was just myself and just sort of let them assume whatever. Um, and then, God, I think even at uni, I think I was still sort of like, I don't know, still sort of figuring it out. Like it was a it was a confusing time because I think I
yeah,
spent a lot of time just feeling really like lost. Like at the same time as being this like ambitious, creative little monster, I was so like, well, who am I and where do I fit and what does any of this mean and what does any
yeah.
of this matter?
Do you wish so I think for many of us we feel that harm of people assuming before we have the language and the understanding ourselves. Um for some people, that forces them to shout it from the rooftops and tell everyone.
Mm.
For yourself, it sounds like it was a much slower process. Do you wish it had been a bit different? And do you think that being in the environment that you were in a theatrical environment where it is quite common, do you think that made it
Mm.
easier to coast and just let it linger under the surface?
I think it's really hard. I think the books that I write are the books that I kind of wish I'd had when I was
Yeah,
that age.
of
So I'm sort of
course.
writing for like my teenage self in a sort of like, you would have needed that. Here's
Yeah.
that. This is me telling you that like things might be a bit rubbish at times, but it will be okay eventually. I remember this. Sorry, this has just come back to me when you were saying that. But like when I was in year 11, when I was still only out at school to maybe like a handful of people, I did a production of High School Musical with like an Amdram group.
Love.
And I remember never coming out at that Amdram group and just being myself, and no one questioned a damn thing. And I remember how comfortable I felt there and how
Mm.
just like completely uninhibited I felt in those 2 sessions a week that we had. Um, and so I don't know, it was sort of like I was living these like two lives, where I was at school and it was like, well, we just have to sort of fly under the radar so we don't have like a badminton racket thrown at us. Actually happened. Um, or and then in this other life where I get to go and be in High School Musical and sort of sing these songs and have this lovely time with these lovely people, one of whom is still one of my best friends in the entire world. And that was like, I'd like 16 years ago.
Amazing. Did you bond over a love of High School Musical?
It was bonded over a love of High School Musical and Apple Tango. And then we just sort of like, and then we just, oh God, we just sort of spent an inordinate amount of time together. Like it was really love. She went to she went to the rival school that was just like
Okay.
down the road from my school. But she was like one of the coolest. She's one of the coolest people I know, and uh, it's really weird to think about the fact that that's how that started. Actually, I've not even thought about that for such a long time. But how we became friends because we were both playing these like side characters in High School Musical and just like creating these like little plot lines for ourselves
Over Apple Tango, which I love.
over
But
Apple Tango
I loved High School Musical at the time. I remember going to see High School Musical on ice at the O2 once.
on ice.
It was wild. Um, when did the feeling lost start to ease a little?
Um, I think it kind of eased. It eased once I got to uni, I think. I think getting out of that home environment and kind of getting, and not that there's anything wrong at home specifically, but like my hometown.
Yeah.
Um, like getting out of that environment, getting around people that had similar ideas and similar goals and sort of just didn't really care
Mm,
about anything like that. It was like doing a fresh start, even though I was only like I was in London, so it wasn't like a million miles away. I'm originally from Essex and then in London, so it wasn't like I was moving to the other side of the world. But it was sort of getting there and getting to know people and sort of getting to figure out who exactly I was. It started to ease, but even now, I still have my moments where I'm like, what's going on? Who am I? What is this? What is any of this? I
yeah.
still feel 16 in my brain sometimes.
I listen, I mean, I'm 42, like I'm nearly a whole decade older than you, and sometimes I slip back into the kind of teenage Neil that like is has no fucking clue what's going on. So I think it's okay. And also, tapping into that still, a decade between us, and that experience is still so similar. Like, just
Mm.
needed to get out of hometown, needed to find myself, needed to have the freedom and the space, and the opportunity, because even though Essex and London are so close together, they're a million worlds apart in terms of attitudes, and particularly
Oh my
some
God,
parts of
yeah.
Essex. I mean, I'm from Ockenden, right? It's still backwards as fuck.
Oh, baby, I was from Wickford, sort of like, which isn't a million miles away from
Just down the road,
Basildon.
yeah, 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 yeah.
So it's just like, pff, girl,
Hazelden,
it's
my
got
first gay club was Colours.
my condolences. To be
Fair.
fair, I never went. I was too scared to even go. Do you know what I mean? That's how like closeted and insular I was. It was like I couldn't even bring myself to go to a gay club.
Well, I mean, colours was wild. Like you'd be on the balcony and there'd be people in the beehive downstairs trying to throw pint glasses up and like it was
That's
wild.
crazy.
Yeah. So yeah, but so know all about Wickford and Basildon. What does so uni sounds like it was quite a freeing time for you.
Mm.
What does early career look like following uni?
Early career was a little bit all over the place because because I applied for drama school when I was 18, didn't end up anywhere because I didn't do UCAS first time round because I was like, I'm going to drama school, leave me alone. Which then didn't happen. Hilariously, they were right, should have done UCAS, but the gap year was good. And then I did UCAS, went to uni, drama and creative writing at Kingston, which was great, but a much more academic course than I was anticipating. So while I'd gone there thinking I'm going to do drama and then out into the acting world, I'm going to be a star, baby. And then it was sort of doing this very academic drama course where it was like, oh my gosh, I do not feel ready to like be going to do a postgrad or going to do anything like that. So I was working as a bookseller at Waterstones at the time. Um, I stayed on afterwards. um, I then got a job in a bank for 6 weeks before I ended up working at Penguin for like 3 months. Then worked at Pan Macmillan for 2.5 years. So I was like fully like I fully left performing behind and went
Mm.
into like kind of corporate publishing world. Um, all the while doing a little bit of the lostness continues because I was like all the while I was doing Amdram because it was like I can't leave this behind. I can't. This itch will not be scratched by anything else other than me getting out on stage and doing stuff. So I was with a local Amdram group called Hinchley Manor Operatic Society. They're still running now. They're fabulous. And it was working with them for a few years while I was at Pan Macmillan. So I was working in the day, and then I would take a week off like twice a year because it was show week. So I'd be doing this show somewhere, and I'd just take a week off as holiday, and I'd go and do that. And I was doing a show. I think we were doing Legally Blonde. No, I was doing a cabaret, and the person who directed me in my first Amdram show, his name is Chris Malone, um, came over to me and he said, "What are you doing?" He was like, "Tonight was your night. What are you doing? Why are you not doing this?" And so I applied for an evening course at ArtsEd, which is a 3 nights a week course at ArtsEd, um, doing musical theatre. Got in, did it. Applied for a postgrad in musical theatre at Mount View. Got in, had a panic attack because it was like, oh God, I'm about to throw away a stable-ish career and a salary, not a big salary because it's publishing, but a salary all the same,
Mm.
to go and earn no money and try and become a performer. This is absolutely insane. But my mum, I remember getting the call that I got because I got waitlisted initially for Mount View, and I can remember thinking, oh, it's not going to happen. Like they'll find someone else and we'll just carry on.
Mm.
Um, and because it wasn't that I didn't love publishing, I think it was just that the bit that I loved the most was working with the authors and working on the books. I hated all of I hated the corporate bullshit. I
Mm.
hated the admin. I hated all of the double talk and the blue sky thinking and the let's circle back later. And I was like, oh, it's so boring. Can we just talk like people? And I don't think I fit in because I wanted to talk like a person,
Yeah.
which is fine. It's not for everybody. I wanted to be on the outside of it. There's some people that fit really well into that. But I remember I got the call that I got in and no one else was in the office. I was the only person in the office from my team. And I got the phone call that I got in. And I called my mum standing in the stairwell, like the fire exit stairwell. And I was like, what do I do? I was like, I can't do this. And she was like, if not now, then when? If you
Yeah.
don't do it now, you will always wonder what would have happened if you'd done it. So I
And
did
look
it.
what happened. And look what happened.
Well, exactly. Like it's sort of weird to kind of think that everything that I wanted to do when I was like 16, I'm now doing, just in
Yeah.
a slightly different way.
Yeah. When you think, you spoke really eloquently about the fact that, careers are not linear
Mm,
and being open yourself up to opportunities. It's the thing that comes up quite a lot on here because I think that whilst there is that rhetoric in society about you do one thing and you focus, actually in the queer space, we don't have to do that because we're queer, right?
yeah.
And we can do what the fuck we want. What's the biggest thing you've learned about yourself through the lessons that you've learned along the way and balancing different things and finding yourself in all these different directions?
I think what I've learned is that I'm really bad at balance. I'm like terrible at it. Like I will 100% I will take on too much and think I can do it all. Like think I can fully live two very full lives. Um, and that's not feasible. It's not possible. So I'll just like knacker myself sometimes. I'm not very good at it. I need to get better at it. I've also found out that like you said about how like careers are not linear and like we don't do that because we're queer. I take some like weird joy in everyone thinking I'm going to do one thing and then I do something else. So
Yeah,
like when I was in publishing, I think no one was paying attention probably. This is just me and my brain. People probably thought, oh, he's just going to be, he'll work his way up, he'll be a publishing director, he'll run an imprint, blah blah blah. And it was like, no, I'm going to go and do musical theatre now. But there was some like strange joy in sort of being like, yeah, I'm going to go and do something else. Um, I don't know what that is. That's me
you,
thinking that people pay more attention to me than they actually do.
no, not at all. Not at all. I mean, you are someone that does like to challenge kind of preconceptions, and you said yourself you mix things up when it comes to
Mm.
your makeup looks and such. You do challenge. I think you probably challenge yourself to get that joy, but also other people along the way. I can see, I think I can see that in you.
I think it's just it's not that, I mean it's not getting bored or anything like that. I think it's sort of when it feels like something is not serving me anymore,
Yeah,
um I think it's time to it, it's time to change or time to
yeah,
jump ship or time to make a move of some kind. Like I was in publishing for for 2.5 years, 3 years ish. And there were parts of it that I loved, there were parts of it that I didn't love. I could probably, someone might tell me otherwise, I could probably have like a really lovely, stable publishing career because I know I was good at it. Um, but um, the it wasn't fulfilling me in the way that at that time it wasn't fulfilling me in the way that I think I wanted it to, and I
yeah.
wasn't getting what I wanted out of it. And I think I don't know. It's a big swing sometimes to do something like that. And I think it was the same as when I left bookselling to work in a bank for 6 weeks. Like, I wanted to work in the children's section of that Waterstones. I wanted a full-time permanent contract. They would not give that to me. And I was like, okay, then, well, I'm going to go because you're not giving me what I want. And this is not
Mm.
going to serve me in the long term because I have no stability here. So I'm going to go and work in this bank for 6 weeks. And then found a job in publishing anyway. So it was like, well, that worked out, but still.
Yeah, but you made it work for you. And I think sometimes when we think about creativity, we get creative with our decisions so that we can get
Mm.
what we want.
Yeah, totally. And
Yeah,
I think I, I don't know. I think a lot of creatives, I think you sort of have to make your own work and make your own
yeah,
luck sometimes. And I think you have to be, especially if you're writing or you're performing, you have to be a self-starter. Like
yeah,
no one's going to say give you the time to write that book. You've got to write it. Like you've got to carve out that time in your schedule to do it. Like when I worked in publishing, the train from where I live to London Waterloo was 20 minutes, and I would find a seat on that 20-minute train, and I would write for the journey there, and I would write for the journey back. I would write on my lunch breaks. I would find the time to do it because if you don't want to find the time to do it, I don't think you really want to do it that much. I think there was a thing I saw on the internet the other day, where someone said, if you are visualizing yourself as a writer and that visualizing does not include writing, you do not want to be a writer.
it's I mean, it's spot on, right? You find time for what you love.
If your vision of being a writer is sitting on a balcony somewhere sipping a Chardonnay, you don't want to be a writer. You want to go on holiday. Like there's a difference.
Yeah, absolutely. Give me the balcony. I'll pass on the Chardonnay, but yeah, um,
We'll
with
find you a
with
nice zero alcohol option. There must be a
there
nice
are some
zero alcohol wine.
there are some decent ones. Tapping into influence, then, I'd love
Mm.
to know someone who shaped you the most along the way. whether that is someone that's giving you the space to be George
Mm.
or someone that has influenced the way you are.
In drag, there's a drag queen called Me the Drag Queen, and her husband, Dr. Joe Paslow, who is my MA advisor at Mountview. They have shaped so much of what I do in my creative practice. I think they've probably shaped me in ways that they've not quite realized either. But so much of what I do is from what they gave me. There is a lecturer at Mountview called Cheryl Gow, who runs the musical theatre course, who, apart from being an icon and a legend in her own lifetime, told me about this thing called exquisite pressure. She taught us all about this thing called exquisite pressure. It wasn't me specifically, which is basically when we were creating our 45-minute solo shows for Mountview, she said, do not book a room for 2 hours, book it for half an hour. That is all the time you have. And you will get as much, if not more, done in that half an hour than you would have got in that 2 hours. Like putting a time limit on things will make you work smarter and work faster. And that is something that I take into every piece of my creative practice. I take it into my drag. I will spend 20 minutes working on a number and then I will take a break. When it comes to writing, I will write solidly for 20 minutes and then I will take a break and then I'll do that again. It just makes so much more sense than sitting there staring at a screen or staring at an empty room for however long. Um, they have shaped me creatively in that way, I think.
Amazing. Big shout outs to both of them, all three of
Honestly,
them.
Joe Parslow, Me the Drag Queen, Cheryl Gow, legends, icons, all of them. My gosh.
Big them up, big them up. What what do you think of happiness and success now compared to what you thought it would be?
I think I used to think that happiness and success would involve some level of fame.
Mhm.
I was thinking about this morning, how it's like, I don't want to be famous. I just want to be successful. And I think they are two different things.
Yeah,
I want, I think happiness and success is getting to do what I do, getting to make a decent enough living from it, and getting to take time off and have holidays, honestly. Like, I'm so grateful to have a partner who has a stable job and who organizes holidays and is like, we're going away. And it was like, hey, great, brilliant. Because I wouldn't do that. I would just keep working. And I think my vision of happiness and success is being able to do the things that I love for a living, um, and still get to take breaks and still get to enjoy myself. I think I see so many people in creative industries who hate what they do because they do it too much or they do it
yeah.
constantly. And I can think of, I think drag is so much work and writing is so much work that if I hated it, I wouldn't want to do it. Like, what's the
Mm,
point? Like, it is so much effort to write a book. It is so much effort to paint your face, put on a wig, corset, padding, all of it. If it's not fun, what's the point? I think my
boom.
vision of happiness and success is being able to have fun, period.
Yeah. And you
Because
always look like you're having fun.
honestly, it is like drag is one of the greatest joys of my life. Like I have these strange moments when I'm on stage. It usually happens at the Admiral Duncan, I think, because I get really lucky and I have really packed out crowds. And so I have these moments where I'm like looking out at a sea of faces who are all smiling and screaming this song back at me. And it's like, oh, this feels like Wembley Stadium, but it's not. It's a little bar in Soho. And I feel like I'm on a cloud. Like it's just
Yeah.
pure joy. And I think my job description as a drag artist, I think, is to put smiles on people's faces. And I think if I've done that, I've done my job. And I think that's a bloody glorious thing to do for a living is to make people happy.
Yeah. And you really do when you're up there. Like, yeah, and
Thanks.
there's an engage. There's not you are and I do like, so I can seriously ask this in, but there is not some drag queens, they get a dead behind the eyes look when they're on stage. They're
Mm.
performing, they're doing a great job, but there's not that engagement, there's not that joy. When you perform, you absolutely see that.
Oh, thank you.
It
That's very kind of you to say.
really shines through. Like you're engaged, you're making sure you're checking in, you're giving everyone a smile, you're giving everyone a bit of eye contact, and it just you look like you're enjoying it. And I think that again, it just creates that two-way thing. It's a two-way relationship when you're up there.
I think I just feel incredibly lucky to do what I do
Yeah.
because, like, I I applied to drama schools when I was 18 and didn't get anywhere, then 19 and didn't get anywhere. I have been to auditions and not got them, and I think I've like got to like finals and auditions and not got these parts. And I think to get to perform and to get to sort of do something that I love so much and get to share it with people, like that's really cool. And I think that's kind of came to the writing as well. Like when it came to like Lucas Cook, it was like I just want to share these stories, and I want to share these stories. I want to share these songs. I want to share these really beautiful wigs that I keep buying. Like and like the fact that I get to do that is really cool. Like I am an insanely lucky person to get to do what I do, because not everyone gets to do it. There's a lot of people that want to, and there's a lot of people that never get to. And I think to have found a place where I can do that, I think is just I'm so bloody fortunate. It's
Yeah.
really, really gorgeous.
I'm going to challenge you ever so slightly there and say you're not just lucky, you're also bloody talented. So you
Thank
get to do it
you.
a lot to do because of that as well. So please,
Thanks.
yeah, just gonna throw that at you and just make
Thank
you take
you.
it, and you can and feel very perceived right now. Um, my final question, my final question for this segment is this: looking back so far, what are you most proud of to date?
I think I'm quite proud of still being here, mostly, because there are a lot of things that have happened in both of my creative pursuits, my careers, that could have broken me or could have torn me to pieces or left me not wanting to do stuff anymore. I think with the drag story time stuff, coming through that and coming out the other side and being quite successful, was gorgeous. I've lost a lot of drag competitions that could have broken my spirit, and they didn't, because actually I was mostly just happy to come second in all of them. With Boy Queen, like that coming out during the pandemic, like that was a horrendous experience, because this book that my debut novel, I'd been with my agent for years, and it was like we finally got to that point, and I didn't get to do the big splashy
Mhm.
celebrations and all of that stuff. Um, that could have the amount of rejections I've had from publishing, like those are all things that could have um turned me away from these creative industries. But actually, I think I sort of I think it's a mindset that I've had for a while anyway, but I've been consciously trying to do it this year, which is trying to see the good in everything, because if you look for it, you will find it. In the same way that if you look for the bad in situations, you will find it. If you look for the good, it is there. And I think that is where I am trying to put my focus. Because I am currently agentless. My last book got rejected by a whole bunch of agents. And so we're sort of working on new stuff and trying to figure out where I want to go next. And I think that's something that I could sit here and think, oh, that's really terrible. That's really hard. That's not fair. Why do these other people get to have these opportunities and I don't? Or it's I get to play around in this sandbox for a little bit, figure out what this idea is going to be, and come back with something so fucking cool that you're not going to know what's hit you. And if it doesn't land, fine, we'll move on to the next thing. I have so many ideas, it's obscene. But I think I need to find the good bits, um, because it's so easy to see the negativity in stuff, and there's so much negativity in the world already. You don't want to add to it.
The House of Happiness is London's ultimate sober clubbing extravaganza. We're led and delivered but created for all, whether teetotal, sober curious, or just taking a booze snooze. We love a day rave, and on a Saturday afternoon you can expect banging house tunes, DJs on decks, dancers on podiums, and a fully stocked alcohol-free bar. Flamboyant, bold, with a glitter station to boot. We're all about safe, inclusive fun, and we even have a pre-meet so that you can make new sober buddies before you hit the dance floor. Grab your tickets from Instagram now at House of Happiness Official, and we'll see you on the dance floor.
Hmm.
Are you ready for some quickfire questions?
Yes, I am.
Okay, here we go. What album, book, or movie has had a lasting impact on you?
Book is One Day by David Nichols.
Okay.
I read it every year without fail. Um, two lives over 20 years on, I think it's on St. Swithin's Day every year for 20 years. And so every year they're getting older, and every year I read it, I'm getting older. And I get a different experience out of it every single time. It's incredible.
Did you like the TV adaptation?
I've not watched it yet.
Okay.
I watched the film with Anne Hathaway and I thought it was okay.
Okay. But
I will
not the
not say a
TV.
bad word about Annie Hathaway.
Fair. She's amazing. What's a saying you live by and one that you put in the bin?
Um, Saying that I live by, this above all else, to thine own self be true, which is from Hamlet, I think. And one that I want to put in the bin is love is love.
Yes.
Because I'm so bored of Love is Love. I'm
Yeah.
so bored. And I saw a really good meme thing post on Instagram the other day, that said, "Let's have less Love is Love this year and more queer lives are in danger." And I was like, do you know what? Work. Love is Love sucks. It's really flippant and it's
Yeah.
stupid, and we need to actually be focusing on the issues at hand, frankly.
Yeah. 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 Straight in the bin. I agree. What's been the best adventure of your life so far?
Gotta be the drag story time stuff. Like that was a saga. That's gotta be the best adventure because it was so surreal. And
Mm.
the most surreal part of it was doing the first two and then going to Budapest to film with Netflix
Oh yes, I forgot about your Netflix movie.
because it was like, well, you're going to carry on protesting this thing while I'm not there, and I'm going to go and hang out in a really fancy hotel in Budapest with Benedict Cumberbatch. Bye.
Yeah, I can't believe that movie hasn't come up in this conversation. I mean, just brilliant.
Just so crazy, honestly. Just the
Yeah,
weirdest thing. And
yeah,
like when I auditioned for it, it was a self-tape that I filmed at my studio, my old studio in Forest Hill, about 10 minutes before I needed to leave to go and do a gig at the Admiral Duncan. I was like, it's Netflix. I am never going to hear back from a freaking Netflix series. So I filmed this thing and I sent it off thinking nothing of it. And then I got it and I was like, that's crazy.
love
That's
it.
insane.
I love it. I remember
They're going to
watching
figure out I'm
it.
a fraud eventually.
No, not at all. I remember watching it and being like, she is. What three words would you use to describe you and your origin story?
Happy go lucky.
Happy-go-lucky.
It's all just been a happy accident.
That is a quote. That is a quote. It's all been, and it is happy. It is a happy accent. I didn't know if you were going to go
Yeah.
for that or creative. I mean, creative little monster are three like the perfect
Creative
ones.
little
But yeah,
monster.
yeah,
Because also like Gaga till I die. Do you know what I mean?
always. Yes, I know you love a Gaga song, but I love that. It's all just a happy accent, and I think it just speaks so much to your story. Actually, to be
Mm.
fair, like the way the way that you tell your story, and you are a storyteller.
I think I always have been. And I think yeah, I think it's all just been really lovely. And I mean, not all been really lovely. Some of it's been kind of terrible. But like, I think, like I said, as Rachel Green said, um, it's all going to work out because it has to.
Yeah,
Um, And so if you're going through a particularly naff bit, um, that's because it's not finished yet. It's all for the plot. It's all for the
yeah,
plot.
all for the plot. This episode is going out during Pride season, so I'd love to
Ding
know what
dong.
exciting things do you have coming up?
In Pride season,
Yeah,
um, got a lot of gigs.
a lot.
Ooh, this is where we make the money, Diva. This is where the corporate brands have to pretend that they like gay people, and so they get some drag queen to come in and do bingo with them. No, it's really horrible. I shouldn't say that. No, I've got a lot of corporates in Pride Month, and I love corporates because so often it is people's first exposure to a drag queen, their first exposure to any kind of queer culture, and I sort of love being some kind of gay guide in that way, just sort of popping up and being like, hello, we're just rainbowing your office just a little bit, whether they're a queer person or not. I know that I've been some people's first drag queen because they've never been out to a bar to see one before. And I think that's really cool. It's bringing a little bit of rainbow and a little bit of happy to these people's weeks. And I
Nice.
think it's really gorgeous. And
Yeah.
sure, they are the best paid gigs that you will do because corporates always pay more. But I also find them to be some of the most joyful because you're bringing a bit of sparkle to some random office in the city. Like it's so out of context that it's just the height of camp.
I love that. I love that. Within that, what brings you joy?
What brings me joy is getting to do the things that I do and make the things that I make and share them with people. I think that brings me heaps of joy. Um, but also like I get a lot of joy out of life, I think. I I obviously just came back from holiday, so I'm very much so I'm really missing my boyfriend at the moment because like we were just together for like 10 days straight and now I've barely seen him for the last like 4 days. And I'm like one of those animals that people got. I'm like a dog that someone got in COVID. Where like suddenly I'm like not with him and I'm like um but I get a lot of joy out of going and discovering new things and new places with him and getting to see the world with him. Um I think seeing good in stuff, the world brings me joy. And I think there's so much horror in the world that I think if I can bring a little bit of joy with a little story or a little song or a little trip to Disneyland, then why not?
Absolutely. Absolutely. My final question for you is this. Do you have any words of encouragement or wisdom for anyone out there to help them get to wherever they're going?
Find the good in everything. Every rejection is getting you one step closer to that big fat yes. I've had so many rejections, so many near misses, so many no's. And had some of those things worked out, had some of those things happened, I wouldn't be where I am now. I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing now. This joyful, lovely life that I have would not exist. So I think what is for you will not pass you by, which is such a cliche, but it's so true. And you are on the right path. You're doing the right things. You have to like have the courage of your convictions, firmly believe that, find the good in it, and it's coming because it has to work out. It has to.
Thank you so much. I think I needed to hear some of what you've just said. Thank you for spending this time with me. I've loved actually getting a conversation that we can hear each other and not in a bar.
Oh my God, how delightful to not be yelling over drunk homosexuals. What a delight.
I mean, I'm always down for that as well. But, honestly, I am an absolute fangirl of you and your work, both writing and on stage, and can't wait to see you soon. But yeah, thanks for being a wicked guest.
Oh my God, thank you so much for having me. This was so much fun.
It was. I'll see you soon.
See you soon.
Bye.
Bye.
I really, really needed, as I said at the end of the conversation, to take away so much of what George had said. I think that when things do feel a bit relentless and challenging, particularly when it comes to our own growth and development and careers and such, there is something in sitting back and seeing what happens and knowing that things will work out because they have to. Again, can't believe I'm tapping into Rachel Green from Friends, but there is some sense behind that, of all places, as George says. And when George, joked about that, but also reflected on the fact of so many rejections, so many near misses, and so many no's, but finding the good in that and giving yourself the space to let them sink in, and the fact that they always lead to a big juicy yes somewhere else. And I think that was, something that I needed to hear. And hearing George thrive about it in doing what makes him happy, and what brings him a lot of joy. And not having to choose. I think that's another thing as well. I think that's something that I have had to pick as someone that loves variety, of not having to choose and enjoying everything that you want to do and grabbing the opportunities. But yeah, loved hearing George's origin story. Loved the words that he uses to describe himself and his origin story. Happy go lucky. And again, that sentiment of it's all just a happy accident. Yeah, such a joyful conversation. Thank you, George, aka that girl, for being who you are, for showing up the way you do. And yeah, if you haven't already seen that girl perform, get yourself down to a bar and see her. Pure joy, pure talent. And grab one of George's books, Boy Queen and Don't Die Alone, Lucas Cook. I hope that you enjoyed listening. Please do rate, comment, subscribe, share. Let's bring these conversations out there, that these stories deserve to be heard. So I will see you next week for another fantastic episode of Pause and Rewind. Cheers.